most important thing is just trying to manage their expectations and explain to them that there's, perfection doesn't exist, and we're just trying to make them a better version of themselves. So I think that's really important, and I think it's just easier to manage them post-operatively when you don't overpromise something that you just can't deliver.
One of the issues is, instead of handling objections, we all have a tendency to gloss over them and say, oh, don't worry about that. And they keep moving on. The problem is you've moved on, but the patient has not, because that's something that's worrisome to them.
Good evening and welcome to the Business of Aesthetics Annual Expert Panel webinar. This empowering discussion is designed to help you navigate challenges, leverage opportunities, and build a thriving career in aesthetics. Thank you for joining us, and a huge thanks to our panel of renowned industry leaders for being here. Tonight, we'll be sharing actionable strategies, best practices, and valuable insights to tackle the unique challenges aesthetic professionals face today. Let's also give a warm welcome to our panelists, Catherine Melee and Angela Parisi. It's truly great to have you with us tonight. Thank you for taking the time to share your wisdom and experience.
You're welcome.
Today, with our Business of Aesthetics expert panel, we'll be discussing a very unique topic, and that is the 3 questions every patient has but won't ask. In today's discussion, we will explore how to address doubts about results with personalized recommendation and visual proof, how to proactively and calmly discuss safety, side effects, and expectations, how to explain pricing through value and long-term results, and finally, how to train your team to spot the unspoken, from hesitations to vague questions. This is a live event, so please engage with your peers, ask questions, and share your reactions. We are confident you'll leave tonight equipped with actionable strategies you can implement immediately. Before we dive in, let me ask you something. When potential patients search online for treatments you offer, does your practice actually show up, or are they finding your competitors? This is a major challenge for many aesthetic practice owners. You might be offering amazing services, but if you're not visible online, you're missing out on a steady stream of new patients. The good news is there's a solution with the right digital marketing, including local SEO, targeted ads, and funnel-based content marketing. You can not only attract more inquiries, but convert them into patients walking through your door. Stick around until the end of tonight's webinar, because we have something very special for you that can help take your practice online presence to the next level. Now let's get started by introducing our panelists tonight. Please welcome Catherine Melee, a marketing and branding expert with over 2 decades of experience in the cosmetic and plastic surgery space. She's the author of Your Aesthetic Practice, a keynote speaker, and the host of the Beauty and the Biz podcast. Catherine works with practices worldwide, offering practical strategies from front desk conversations to niche patient targeting to boost revenue, enhance patient engagement, and build brand authority. Based in Sausalito, she continues to help top practices maximize their marketing impact and drive measurable growth. Next up, please welcome Angela Parisi, an advanced practice nurse and certified injector at the Parker Center for Plastic Surgery in New Jersey. Angela has been with Parker Center since 1992 and is widely respected for her compassionate care and clinical expertise. She specializes in the safe and effective use of neurotoxins like Botox and dermal fillers, helping patients achieve natural-looking results. Angela is ACLS certified, actively continues her training, and is dedicated to supporting patients throughout their surgical journey and skill and professionalism. Wow, we have a great lineup tonight, and I'm truly appreciative of each of you taking your time to be here. On your screen, you'll see the main points for today's discussion. I'm confident they will help discover an insightful and amazing webinar. We also welcome the audience to post questions in the Q&A section, and we will try our best to get them answered. Of course, if we are not able to get them answered, one of our podcast managers will relay the answers to you with no time. With that said, I'm going to stop sharing my screen and let's get into tonight's conversation. So, Catherine, from the patient's perspective, what additional questions might they be asking themselves when considering an aesthetic treatment?
Well, one big one is, will this procedure be the right one for me? Like, will it work for me? Will I get what I want out of it? And oftentimes it's people will say, well, it's not for everybody, and then they're going to say to themselves, well, will I be the exception to this, and I won't get the result I want, or will I regret this? So what you're trying to do is enter the conversation the patient is already having in their mind, because you want to answer whatever is bothering them and keeping them from moving forward. So, for example, if let's say they have that question, am I going to regret this? You could say something like, in your copy or in your ads, you may be wondering if this is right for you. That's exactly what this blog post spells out to determine if you're a good candidate for this procedure. Do you hear how I'm literally almost having a conversation with them with that kind of copy? And then you want to use real world proof, like before and after photos. Be careful, in today's world, we've got a lot of diversity. The patient wants to see themselves in those photos, so make sure you're using all different ages, body types, ethnicities, so that patient can see themselves. Also, the testimonials, it's so helpful when the testimonials are talking about their own doubts and the results they ended up getting, because that way now they're entering the conversation the patient is having with the other patient. And as well as video patient stories. I love patient stories. And especially if you can direct the patients when you're doing video testimonials, if you could prompt them to say things like, I wasn't sure this would work for me. However, this is what happened, and this is how great I feel about it now. So you want to use exact words from consultations in the real world to then write your ads, your copy, your emails, and your social media posts. And then you want to focus on personalization. So here's how we customize this to work for you and your situation. Patients think they're special and they're paying with their own credit card, so they want to be treated special. So when we personalize and talk about your situation, your body, boy, that helps a lot with being credible, building trust through transparency and reassurance. And one more tip on that, a really good thing to do, and nobody likes this one, but it really makes a lot of sense. Talk about who's not a good candidate. Tell them now ahead of time. You'll get so much more credibility and the right patients when you tell them, this is who's not a good candidate for this procedure. Anyway, that's a really good tip if you care to use it.
Thank you, Catherine. It's so helpful to look at things from the patient's lens first. It really frames the rest of the conversation. So, Angela, let's talk about expectations. When a patient expresses high expectations but doesn't specify goals, how do you guide that conversation to ensure the expectations are realistic and personalized?
Well, we inform our patients that we want to help them manage their expectations. And that's probably one of the biggest challenges for everybody with social media, is managing expectations, because I think what they see on social media may not be realistic. It's not realistic in terms of their expectations. So with us, we use some computer imaging. We provide like a visual representation of what their post-surgical results will look like. And it just allows us to set realistic goals, and kind of emphasizing that perfection is not attainable. And what we're trying to do is just make them a better version of themselves, and to give them an improved look about themselves, and to make them, to improve their self-esteem. And I think that healing is very unique to every patient, and it varies. And I think that you have to emphasize that, because that does affect expectations. So I think the most important thing is just trying to manage their expectations and explain to them that there's, perfection doesn't exist, and we're just trying to make them a better version of themselves. So I think that's really important. And I think it's just easier to manage them post-operatively when you don't overpromise something that you just can't deliver. So I think that's super important.
Great example, Angela. I think expectations early on makes all the difference. So Catherine, staying on that same theme, how does cost influence a patient's decision-making process when evaluating whether a treatment is truly worth it?
When it comes to money, that is a very sensitive topic for many. It says a lot to people. Money makes the world go around, and there's a lot to it. So, one of the questions about the money, especially with a credit card patient, they're asking themselves, is this really going to be worth it? Because they're competing with disposable income, and some of this time they want it to go to themselves versus their family or the family
Mm,
vacation or the husband who wants a boat, and it goes on and on and on. So patients are saying to themselves, will I regret spending this on myself? And will I get what I paid for? So I like to answer that by shifting the focus from the price to the payoff. So think about that, price to payoff. Right now, all they're thinking about is the price, and that's how they're doing their cost benefit analysis. Like, is it going to be worth the time, the money, and hassle? I want them to start thinking about the payoff that they're going to get by moving forward. So, words like, you're not just buying a procedure, you're investing in how you feel at work, at events, or looking in the mirror every day. That can be
mm,
priceless to somebody who has been very bothered by something about their appearance. And then getting them to think about the future by saying things like, you know what, we hear all the time from our patients, gosh, I wish I had done this sooner. I have worried about this for years. I finally did it, and I could kick myself for waiting so long. That's what we want to hear from the patients who are literally almost talking to the patients on the fence saying, do it, don't waste your time, go for it. So those responses that I just mentioned, they tap into the logical brain, and then they move to the emotional side. We all make decisions based on, frankly, we make them based on emotion, but then we justify it with logic. So right now, we need to tap into that emotional side, the results or the the benefits that she or he is going to get out of doing this procedure. And then we get into the logical later. By the way, if you're getting some price resistance, all that means is you haven't sold the value yet. They are not clear. Why am I going to pay more for you than somebody else?
mm,
You have to really spend some time on that. And frankly, there's one thing, if nothing else, there's one thing I often say, and all the staff should be able to jump in if somebody says, like somebody gets sticker shock and they're like, are you kidding? How can this be so expensive? So, one nice thing to have as a response is yes, our fees are different because of the exceptional results Dr. Smith is able to achieve. Or if you really want to be gutsy about it, and this happened to me personally many years ago when I was getting a rhino and I got sticker shock. And the coordinator looked me dead in the eye and said, you want it done right the first time, right? I thought that was amazing because all I was thinking about was price. And she
mm,
completely turned my mindset and went, wait a second, I do only want this done one time. So maybe I should go to him to get it done right. I really like that one. Just come up with some things you can say rather than when someone says, oh my God, how is this so expensive? And you just have the deer in the headlights. You don't know what to say. Prepare ahead of time. You know it's coming. Or what's better is you know it's in their heads. So just go ahead and say it ahead of time before they even get to that question in their head. And then, for heaven's sakes, would you please offer financing? So many practices, I am shocked at how many of them, what's that called? You're walking over $100 bills to pick up the pennies
mm,
or whatever. You really have to look at that. Most cosmetic patients do not have 20K laying around in cash. but they
Mm,
do have 500 a month. So please take a look at that. There are so many vendors out there. There's always the big monsters in the industry, but there are also brokers who are much more agreeable, a much more their approval process is easier and more forgiving, and the service fees are less. Please take a look at that. Cosmetic patients want these services. Help them find the money, please. And then here's one more thing that I'll say about the money. If you can get them off the price and talk about how to find the money, that's one thing. Another one is called risk reversal.
mm,
One of the issues is they are scared of giving you all of this money and not getting a result that they wanted. So I have used this several times. I got it from Nordstrom. Every woman knows Nordstrom will return anything and everything. They built a $1 billion business on that. So I call it a "we want you happy" guarantee. Now, before everyone panics and says you're kidding and you've got to be out of your mind, just think about it. When a patient isn't happy with you, what do you normally do in a practice, especially in today's world with social media and with reviews, and people can cut you down and you have no defense? What do you normally do? You try to make them happy. Well, I'm saying, and within reason, because it's not going to go away if they're not happy. First of all, you can't ignore them. You need to see them. Eventually, you can't keep saying, "Oh, you just wait a bit. It takes some time." You The reason they're going online to complain about you is because you're not helping them and you're just brushing them off. So, but think about what happens. You end up doing a revision or doing something. You do something. Sometimes you even give them a refund because it's gotten too far and you just want this headache to go away. Well, in your "we want you happy" guarantee, you lay out some of the boundaries that you're willing to go to, but keep it still general. You're never saying, and you're not telling the whole world this, by the way. You're just saying it in a consult when they're ready to convert, but they're on that fence because they can't make sense of it.
mm.
That might be just what they needed to get off the fence because now they know you're going to take care of them after the result, if in case they're not exactly happy with it. Yeah.
Thanks, Catherine. I think pricing can be tricky, but the value conversation is very important. So Angela, let's take it a step further. Can you share a time when proactive risk communication shifted a patient's perception and resulted in greater trust or compliance?
So for me, what comes to mind, what's one of our memorable experiences involved a patient. She was hesitant about going through the surgery. We were going to do a tummy tuck on her, but she was mostly concerned about the recovery time, managing her kids. She also had, the mom guilt, which, Catherine was alluding to about, the where they are just worried about spending the money.
Mm,
And especially moms always go through that experience because they think, what else could I have spent the money on my family versus myself? This woman's husband traveled a lot. And during the consultation, we addressed her worries by emphasizing the importance of a well-planned recovery. And that will gain their trust because they don't feel like you're trying to just take their money, book a surgery, and be done with them. You're really investing in them, investing in their recovery. And with this specific patient, we suggested postponing the surgery by a month just so that she can get her retired mom to stay with her, assist with the childcare. And, by openly discussing the recovery time frame, setting her clear expectations, I think that we helped alleviate her fears. And we did instill confidence in the process and our own expertise by educating her, about the recovery and just being honest, just saying that, this is not a recovery where you're just going to, you're going to be able to take care of your children in a day. There's time you have to really take care of yourself and you're going to need that care. And I think that, an approach like that, it's transparent, it focuses on trust, it paves the way for a smoother recovery. And it helps the patient prepare for a very thoughtful recovery. And in the end, they're very happy because they don't feel rushed about going through a difficult recovery because they have all their kind of eggs in order, in terms of their family helping them. And they do get better outcomes when the recovery is planned. So I think, you need to really support these patients in a whole way where you're not just trying to sell a surgery to them, but they're trusting in you that you're guiding them in the right direction so that the recovery goes as smooth as possible. And I think that the more smooth and rapid a recovery goes for a patient, the more they're trusting in you and the happier they are in the end.
Thank you, Angela. I think, just like you said, trust really is built in those small moments. So,
For sure. Yeah.
Catherine, what strategies do you recommend for helping patients overcome fear and objections so they feel confident moving forward with treatment?
Objections are actually a sign that there's vulnerability on their side. Is it really, I just keep saying it, is it really going to be worth the time, the money, and the hassle? And will they still care about me after I, hand over the credit card? Will they take good care of me? Will they take as good a care of me as they did before the surgery? Will I still feel that afterwards? Cosmetic patients are all about feeling special and cared for and heard and understood. Gosh, I would just really make sure that you're addressing. One of the issues is instead of handling objections, we all have a tendency to gloss over them and say, oh, don't worry about that. And they keep moving on. The problem is you've moved on, but the patient has not, because that's something that's worrisome to them. So if they're I like to have better responses. So, one, I like to acknowledge what they're afraid of. The best way to acknowledge something is to say, I hear you. I completely understand what you're saying. People want to be heard and understood. So, you can say things like, after they tell you all of their problems or their fears, and quite frankly, some will tell you all of this and some will not. So, you want to add this into your dialogue anyway, no matter what. But things like, by the way, every surgical procedure does carry some risk, and we have systems set up to support you before, during, and after surgery. You'll be in good hands throughout the journey. That reassurance, and I would say that often, that just simple reassurance can make all the difference when someone's afraid. It is not easy to say, yeah, sure, rearrange my face and body and let's hope for the best. It's a big deal. And then you can also do things like after surgery, you say to the patient, you're given the number to our private practice phone, and you can call it or text it 24/7. We're always going to be available to answer your questions. Nurses are on site, or there is an automation to it in case you don't need a live person. But if you want a live person, you can get one. But
Mm.
patients love having the private cell phone. You know how a lot of the doctors use that to differentiate themselves? They say, by the way, here's my personal cell phone. If you have any issues at all, feel free to call or text. The irony is, most of the doctors are scared to death to do that. The irony is, most of the time, nobody ever uses it. It was just the reassurance the patient needed to know that if there was a problem, or if I'm afraid or scared or confused, I can reach out and somebody will help me. So, another one to say is, by the way, Dr. Smith wants to see you several times after your surgery to make sure all is well because he really cares about your recovery and the results you get. You know, tell people those things. You also have your own conversation going on in your mind. The whole point is if you two could communicate out loud to each other, you have the answers that the patients are looking for. It all needs to be said. And then most objections are really not about price or pain. They're all about what Angela said, trust. Does this patient trust you? Trust your staff? Trust your processes? Trust your OR? Trust their journey? Will they get what they want? And the more you lead with empathy, transparency, and reassurance, and you don't, because what you don't overcome objections as much as you do simply removing the fear. Most of this is fear based, fear about all sorts of things. So the more you can address that, a lot less, and reassurance is everything. You know, keep in mind these patients, they're giving you, this could be the biggest decision they've ever made in their lives, quite frankly. I mean, sometimes it's to get married, buy a house, sometimes it's to have surgery and really change their identity, change their confidence, change their look on life. It's a big deal. So trust is everything. Yeah.
Excellent advice, Catherine. Thank you for that.
Mm.
So, Angela, from your experience, what language or framing technique work best when discussing procedure costs so patients understand you're offering long-term value, not just a price tag?
So when we discuss the breakdown of the costs with the patients, we provide detailed breakdown that includes the surgeon's fee, the facility fee, and anesthesia. And we also make it clear that the pricing is based on estimated duration of the procedure. So in other words, what the doctor says he estimates the surgery to take is that's how we price our surgeries. So if the surgery goes longer than expected, we never change those fees. We just, it's just kind of the price of doing business. And so we never go back to the patient and ask for more money once we quoted a price to them. So it's an all-inclusive price. We explain to them that includes all their follow-up visits. So we give the value to that price. It also includes post-op lymphatic drainage massages. It includes homeopathic healing supplements. So it's an all-inclusive price, and I think that they like to see that without any hidden fees that they might be faced with afterwards. And the first thing I always say to people is, it's easy to go buy a car and drive it out of the lot, right? But the car loses value.
Mm.
We're investing in ourself, and to me, that's the most valuable investment you can make in yourself, because we increase in value when we spend money on ourselves. But anything that we buy on the outside, like a car, we lose value. I'm so sorry. Sorry about that.
Right.
So that's my answer to that question.
Thanks, Angela. Um, so, uh, so Catherine, let's talk about marketing for a moment. How do you recommend aligning a practice's marketing message with what patients are secretly wondering? Will this really work for me?
The regarding the marketing, the scary part for patients is that they don't know what to expect. So you want to tell them. Personally, right now, just personally, I happen to have an implant issue. I never heard of this in my entire life. All of a sudden, I have this implant issue. And it has been a joke. The way everything's been a shock, a surprise. Like, what do you mean? What do you mean it costs $9,000? Like, what do you mean I'm not going to have a tooth for 6 months and then another 6 months and then there's going to be a crown? Like, I've been so shocked at the whole experience, thinking, boy, you people really need to learn like customer service and patient relations. The last thing you want to do is keep surprising a patient and frustrating them and ticking them off and confusing them and just shocking them. So there's a saying. If you tell somebody ahead of time, it's just an explanation. But if you tell them after the fact, it becomes an excuse. And that's exactly what has been happening. They've been backpedaling because I keep calling them on things saying, why don't I know this? Why didn't anyone tell me this? Oh, I thought we told you. I thought the other person told you. And I thought, this is not how you run a business, especially for that kind of ticket item. Gosh, should be a lot cleaner than that. So you also want to communicate like a normal person and not like a textbook. I am so surprised. I think people do this to sound smart. The problem is using technical jargon ends up confusing the heck out of the patient. They're not as impressed as you are about using those big words because they're not even understanding what you're saying to them. So words like erythema, lymphatic drainage, edema, I guarantee 9 out of 10 people you say that to have no clue of what you're talking about. If you would just say things like a normal person, for example, you may experience some redness, tenderness, or swelling for a few days. That's totally normal and it's part of your healing process. Now, isn't that much more reassuring? Now the patient completely understands what you're talking about and can move on. And also, your branding should reflect your values. How many times Does a patient say, I want natural looking results? We all, no, not all. I live in California. Not everybody wants natural looking results, or in Miami. So certain places don't. But the majority of people want natural looking results. Well, if that's true, and if the doctor also wants natural looking results, and it's all subjective. Some doctors, if you let them, the breast size, they will go much bigger than you had expected to go. That kind of thing. You want to get real clear what we're talking about here. What does natural looking results mean? But one thing I love to do is have the doctor show off natural looking results by actual patients on your website, in your social media, in your blog posts. I love actual patients. At website people have a tendency to use, I think they're taking from porn sites, these ridiculously scantily clad women who are laying on the ground, which nobody would ever pose like that in real life. And that's who you're portraying yourself to be. Well, then you can't say we're all about natural looking results. Please just use actual patients. There's this guy who did a great job of this. He had a website, and when you open it up, you see this cackle of women. They were all wearing white t shirts and jeans. They were all different shapes and sizes. And it says actual patients, like body by, Dr. B. It was so natural and endearing, and I love that. That's where I would go with that. Like, really, if whomever you are, and let's say you're not that. Let's say you're into big lips and butts and boobs, then go with that. But then be consistent. If that's what you're going to do, then your video clips should also be like that. Your photos on your website should also be like that. But then you also have to talk about the recovery and the healing stages, because the thing about plastic surgery, this is such an emotional roller coaster that if you're not used to it and you've never been down this road before, it's crazy. First, you're excited that you're going to do it. Well, first you were scared to death to do it. Then you did it. You jumped off the fence and you said yes. And now you're really excited, but now it's getting closer and closer. And now you're second guessing it because our human brains bring in doubt and fear. And now you're like, oh, I got to get out of this. Oh, I shouldn't have done this. And then you're backing up. And that's why you want to stay in touch with that patient, get them excited again, reassure them again. And now they have it done. And now they're real wobbly because they're waking up for general or from anesthesia and they're not sure what's going on. Then they're recovering. And frankly, the first few days, they probably hate you. They hate themselves. They hate life because life's not good. They're completely out of whack. And then they start seeing the recovery and the results, and they start feeling hope and almost happiness, and they're back to excitement again. You don't know that until you've gone through it. The point is use all your video, your social content, your patient stories, use all that to tell that story ahead of time. So they're not going to be surprised for the ups and downs. And then, I love doing Instagram reels are fantastic. The problem is they go so darn fast. I don't use them it's hard to educate somebody when they're going so fast and they're scrolling like crazy, but do little bite-sized formats. How long is downtime really for a tummy tuck? Like Angela was just saying, that is such a big question. I've called practices that I've said, as mystery shopping, I've said, what's a downtime for a tummy tuck? And this woman literally said to me, oh, you're going to be down for 2 months. Now, that's just a silly thing to say because nobody I know has 2 months to be down. And it depends on your version of downtime. What does downtime mean to you? Does it mean you are flat on your back and you're not moving at all? Does it mean you're able to get up and run a few errands in the house? Does it mean that you can put on some cap and sunglasses and go to the mailbox? Does it mean you can go run some errands? Does it mean you're ready to go out socially? There's a lot of different stages to recovery. So I would just get a lot more clear about that and then lead with empathy. We like saying things like, we know one of the biggest concerns is downtime, and address it head on. Yeah, because transparency builds trust. We're always going to go back to trust. And then, so now you want to normalize the concerns instead of glossing over them. And you normalize them by talking about them. And so many of the doctors have said to me, Catherine, if I do all this ahead of time before I even meet the patient, or if I do like what you're telling me, I won't have anything to talk to the patient about during the consult. And I say, think about it this way. You, the doctor, you think you have to tell them all of this and present to them. Half of the time, the consult ends up being a one-way presentation. It is the doctor telling the patient everything they know, and the patient pretty much doesn't get a word in until at the end the doctor says, "Do you have any questions?" And instead, when the patient's more educated, now the doctor can say, "So, I understand you're up on, what's been going on here, our format, our philosophy, and all of that. What kind of questions can I answer for you that you don't already know?" And now it's much more about the patient talking. If you would let a patient talk, and let them tell you.
Mm.
A patient will tell you everything you want to know if you would just show some interest and ask them. The problem is then they never stop. That can go on and on and on, and you can open up a whole rabbit's nest there, or rabbit's nest, or bird's nest, or whatever it's called. But rat's nest, I don't know what it's called. But you just want to be careful with that. But I'll tell you what, the more that patient gets to tell you how they feel, because we're all about feelings in this, the closer you are to a yes, because other surgeons aren't letting them say anything. They're interrupting them.
Thank you, Catherine. I think that's a very smart approach, and I think meeting patients where they are mentally is the key. So Angela, shifting to team dynamics, how do you train your team to pick up nonverbal cues or hesitations? And what steps do you take when they notice those cues in a consultation?
Well, partly to Catherine's point about picking up the nonverbal cues, I really do think you have to listen to your patients. And, it does require some time just kind of getting to know them, knowing what their fears are. And I think it's easier to pick up on a lot of the nonverbal cues, especially when they're presented with the pricing. I think patient coordinator is key. I think you need an excellent patient coordinator because they're the closers, and they're the ones that are actually giving that quote to the patient after all of, the rest of us have seen the patient. And, we've seen the nonverbal cues, we've seen the hesitations and the fears that they have going into surgery. We express that to the patient coordinator, but still they haven't been faced with that price yet, and so they can get some sort of a sticker shock when they see the price. So I think that having a highly skilled patient coordinator is key to recognizing those signs of hesitation. And a lot of times it is related to the cost, recovery concerns, or even a spouse's reservation if their spouse is not there with them. So in our situation, if a patient does seem uncertain, we recommend scheduling a second consultation with them. We want them to bring their spouse, and we want to just address all of their shared concerns together. And sometimes the spouse is concerned more about, the recovery and, how just the safety of it all. Or sometimes they're concerned with the pricing. So it's really important to get the spouse. We try to get the spouse on the first consultation, but it doesn't always work out that way. But I think that that's a huge part of facing some of those concerns. The other thing we do is, we'll tell the patients if the pricing is just too high for them and they tell us that it's way out of their price range, we'll offer them a discounted rate if we get a surgical cancellation on short notice, just to try to make it a little bit more affordable for them. And to even Catherine's point in terms of helping them with the financing, I mean, I think that's really important. I think it's a lot easier to swallow a $500 a month payment than it is to look at a $20,000 quote. So I think that that's really important. And I think the other very important thing is promoting the doctor's skills, their experience, highlighting his value, and why just kind of justifying why they would pay that price for the surgery. And even to Catherine's point, you want this done once, not again. And I think that that's very important.
Thank you, Angela. That's some great insights. So Catherine, let's look at content strategy. How can practices use their website, social media, or content to preemptively address patient fears about risks, downtime, or side effects without sounding clinical or scary?
Right. Well, yeah, write normal, like normal individual people, just write regular. Stop with the medical jargon. And I just think it's so important. I do a lot of branding. I think it's so important you be your website. Too many of the practices give their website to a website group, and the website group can be fantastic. However, you're giving them much too much reign on what this looks like. I'm surprised at how many have not had a discussion. Like I've said to them, to the doctor, now, didn't the website people, didn't they ask you things like who are you? What are your values? What in one word, like how would you describe, like all those kind of words you're looking for? Who is this practice and how can we portray them correctly online? Because you're not trying to attract the whole world. You're trying to attract people who would like you. That's our biggest thing with branding. Be true to yourself. You be you. Make sure your website portrays you. And I would spend a lot more time trying to get that right because then the right patients will love you for you. Too many practices, the guy is, or I shouldn't say that, the surgeon is trying to be all that. The ego's too involved. And they're so into, well, look at all my certificates, look at all my awards, look what I did the other day. And I love that, but not at the beginning. Right now, the patient is saying, do I even like you? Like, do you even get to know you better? I want to know who you are, your theme, your mission, your vision for how you help me. If you could spend more time there, you're going to spend a lot less time dancing for the wrong patients. Half the time you're not connecting with these patients because what they saw online, either your social media or your website, I have seen this over and over. There are some people who have decided, some doctors have decided that social media, they're going to embrace it if it kills them. They're going to dance even though they've never danced before in their lives. They're going to tell jokes. They're going to try to be funny when they're not. Um, why would you do that? Because all you're doing is attracting people who like that in you and it's not really you, or you're detracting the people who actually like a surgeon who's quiet and introverted and loves his family and is a dog owner and he doesn't do a lot. He doesn't go crazy on the weekends. He's not high flying it. He's spending time with his family and kids. I would spend way more time trying to figure out who you are as a person and then who you want to be as the surgeon and who you want your practice to be. Because once you get that right, you'll now attract the right staff who also like that with a caveat. I want the staff to dance.
Mhm.
Like, I want the staff to be the entertainment committee on social media because social media is all about entertainment. I don't want the doctor to be the entertainer if that's not who he is. So let the staff be the funny part and the silly part, and the doctor be that. Just be you. It'll take care of so much of this because half of the time, the reason you're not clicking with a patient is not only they not telling you what they're thinking, the reason is they're not connecting with you. They're not feeling you at all because they're saying, I worked with this doctor who had one of those porn sites. I just call them porn sites. I don't know who thought this was a good idea when you're trying to attract a woman to have this black website with soft lighting, with women in lingerie. I don't know why you think that's attracting a normal housewife. I don't get that. But if that's who you want to be, the problem is when you go down that road and then, and it looks like it's very high end, and this was a real, I won't say what town they were in, but it turns out the website was killer. When you go to his practice, it was in an alleyway. He was not a cool kind of guy. He was very quiet, very introverted, has 6 kids at home, married for 30 years, very quiet. And his office, he made his office look like it was the Taj Mahal, and it wasn't. And I just thought, why are you doing this? You're not, there's such a disconnect there. And then he wondered why his conversions were terrible. And I said, because there's such a disconnect. So please take a look at your branding. It means a lot. Who are you in real life? And I promise you, you don't need the whole world. Isn't it amazing? Let's say even if you did 500 surgeries a year, you only need 500 people to like you. You don't need 20 million. You don't need to go viral with blog posts or with your dance routine. You know, I think you should play this game much more strategically in today's world than much more, let's just throw it out there. Let's just be everything we can be to everybody and let's see what happens. I think that's a problem because now you're not building trust. Didn't you just lose trust when you showed a website like that and then in real life you're nothing like that? There is zero trust there now. Now you're really going to have to sing and dance to get them to be because they're not. They're not going to now. So please take a look at your branding. It makes a big difference. I'm sorry that
Thank
was
you,
so
Catherine.
long-winded. Sorry.
No, no. I
Jeez.
think that's a fantastic way to educate without overwhelming. So yeah, so we have a few questions from the audience as well. Any of you can actually jump right in and give some insights on this. So, when a patient seems nervous but doesn't voice it, what strategies do you address that concern?
Go for it, Angela.
What was the question?
Yeah, so when a patient seems nervous but doesn't voice it, what strategies do you use to address that concern?
I think what you do is you just try to, you try to make them feel comfortable, talk about some other things just to, as to Catherine's point, earn their trust. And then eventually they will open up, especially when I'm a nurse and I've been a nurse for a long time, so they're going to be they're very quick to open up to me when we're sitting down in a consultation room because I'm not, more about educating them about procedures. And I think that, when you listen to them and you listen to their circumstances, because everybody has a story and everybody wants to be heard. And I think that once you do that, it's a lot easier to ask them questions about what they're there for and how you can help them.
Thank you, Angela.
One little tip that has helped
Yeah.
a lot. When people, if you think about it, they're on your turf and you're very comfortable with all of this. You've been doing it forever. You understand the procedures, you understand the journey, and this is their first time. They're feeling very vulnerable. When they arrive, I like to say something. First of all, I like to have talked to them ahead of time, and then I like them to have a friend in the practice. It's so helpful for them to have somebody that they turn to who's kind of like their aesthetic advisor, and they're the buffer between the surgeon and them, because a patient will often tell the staff much more than they'll tell the doctor because they're intimidated by the doctor, or they want to talk about their personal side and the doctor doesn't. The doctor wants to stay clinical. The staff can get all personal if you want. So I think it's helpful to have both, but asking really good questions. But before you ask a bunch of questions, start with your intention. Sarah, we're here to help you get what you want, So relax. We hope you choose us, but otherwise, I'm here to give you all the information you need to make a good decision. So, let's see how it goes. Like you're not trying to push them or pressure them, because a lot of the patients are saying to themselves, "Are you going to sell me on this? I'm not. Don't be selling me anything. Don't be pushing me." And you don't have to. You know what I always say? You would be selling if you cold called them or if you went outside and pulled them in
Mm.
off the street. These people actually have a problem, you have a solution, and they reached out to you and now they're visiting you. So you're servicing them by giving them really good information, a really good patient experience, so they choose you over everyone else.
And I think having the patients talk to the staff first before they meet the doctor is
Mm.
huge. And I think that, every practice should have that where the patients come in and they see somebody that they feel comfortable with before the doctor comes in the room. Because as soon as the doctor comes in the room, they get intimidated for whatever reason. So we try to get as much history as we can from them, and then just find out what it is that they're bothered by. It takes a lot for them to come into your office for the first time to talk about something that they're really insecure about. It takes a lot for them to make that phone call. So it's really important to make them comfortable before the doctor even gets into the room. And then when you kind of brief the doctor, he comes into the room and now he's prepared to answer any of the questions that they have. And they're already starting to get that comfort level with the office before the doctor comes in. So I think that's really helpful.
Thank you, Angela. I think some great actionable insights and takeaways. And we have one last question, and this is, I think, Catherine was actually talking about this. How do you recommend handling pricing conversations from a branding standpoint, especially when patients bring up cheaper competitors?
Here's how I would handle that kind of price resistance. And cheap usually means they are threatening to go to Turkey or to Mexico and that kind of thing. First of all, at that point, you have attracted price shoppers for whatever reason. Whatever your marketing message is, you have attracted that 10% who are price shoppers who all they care about is price. And I honestly, to me, that's a big red flag because if they immediately already tell you, well, I could get this in Mexico for a third, I almost don't even want to have that discussion because it's not worth it to me because that's not who you should be catering to. It's a race to the bottom. They'll complain more than anybody else. You'll regret it almost every time. However, if you want to go there, at least here's what I would do. Every time your surgeon has to repair a revision from Mexico or Turkey or wherever, get notes from that. Get the photos from that patient. Get a video testimonial saying, I made a mistake. I thought I could do this on the cheap. Here's what happened. I almost died on the plane. I almost died in the hospital. I had to go to the ER when I got home. You want to hear the nightmare story, but you don't want to say it. You want your patient to relay their bad story about it. And it's important that they say, so Dr. Smith, thank God, was able to fix things. They're not
Mm.
perfect, but they're much better. And he saved my life, by doing that because it was not a good result that I got. And frankly, I end up spending double of what I could have initially if I had just stayed in America and picked Dr. Smith to begin with. That's how you handle that. Develop a little library. The coordinator needs a little library of bad stories, patient stories. And now you're not being defensive. You're not um, like debating with the patient. All you're saying is, here's my patient stories. This is what happened to others.
Right. Thanks, Catherine. So to wrap up, Angela, in your experience, what's the most overlooked question a patient should ask but often doesn't, and how do you encourage them to voice it?
So I think one of the most overlooked questions is when a patient, I think all patients should ask, what steps can I take to ensure a smooth and speedy recovery, and what role do I play in the process? And I think that's important because I think the patients need to understand that they need to take a role in this and they need to be part of their recovery. After surgery, many patients will turn to Google. I'm sorry. Come here. I'm so sorry.
Mhm.
After surgery, many patients will turn to Google, looking for garments or tips to speed up the healing process. But unfortunately, the internet is filled with a bunch of inaccurate information, which is why we always encourage them to call us directly with their questions. Every surgical patient has my cell phone number, so they can either text me or call me to ask me questions about the recovery. We try to remind them that Dr. Google is not a trained medical professional and, lacks the experience to provide, reliable advice. Additionally, recovery recommendations vary from one physician to another. So it's really important that they follow our instructions in terms of the recovery. And, basically our mission is to empower patients with the tools and knowledge needed for a smooth recovery. We focus on factors like maintaining balanced diet, incorporating light walking after surgery, avoid activities that might elevate their heart rate. So we try to give them personalized guidance to help them navigate their recovery journey. And then we also have a rapid recovery program that, enhances healing. We have homeopathic healing supplements. And so we try to give them a comprehensive recovery period, but I think that sometimes they forget that when they're, with all the information that they're getting, and they're quick to be laying in bed recovering, and they just open up their computer or their phone and they're on Google looking for advice, and a lot of it is inaccurate. So I think, to me, I wish that they would feel like they're an important team player in the recovery, and they really have to follow our instructions. Um, so yeah.
Thank you, Angela. I think that's some great insights. So, So yeah, I just realized what time it is, and yeah, the time was flying tonight. So so I would love to keep going, but I want to be mindful of everyone's time. Tonight has been awesome. So many comprehensive answers, valuable takeaways, and rich insights. Thank you all so much. Before we wrap up, I promised you that there is going to be something special for you who joined this webinar. Um, I just want to circle back around to something that I shared with you. So we have something special for you, a small gift that we have for you. As I said before, it comes from Naren Aruraja, who's the founder of the Business of Aesthetics Expert panel and podcast. Naren is also the CEO of Eco Marketing, which is a company that specializes in helping aesthetic practice owners and doctors grow their business through smart, strategic digital marketing. As a thank you for joining us tonight and spending your time with us, Naren is offering you a free marketing strategy session with Lila Stone. Lila is the marketing consultant for both the business of aesthetics as well as with Equa Marketing. If you haven't met her yet, she's amazing. She's a trusted expert in the field and genuinely passionate at helping aesthetic professionals stand out in what's obviously becoming a very competitive space. She knows how to help you attract more clients, build your reputation, and grow sustainability. You'll see a QR code on the screen. You can scan that with your phone to book your session or check the chat for a direct link. Now, what's important about this is that this isn't just a quick call. Lila will actually spend several hours researching your online presence, your competition, your local SEO, everything, and she'll come to the call ready to walk you through custom recommendations just for your practice. If you think about it, you can ask this question: are you showing up online when aesthetic in your area? If a patient looks for care, are you turning those clicks into actual visits? Is your marketing working while your clinic is closed? So these are some questions that you can ask yourself, and this session is designed to help you answer those questions and fix anything that's not quite working. So I'll leave that with you. But truly, I encourage you to grab this opportunity, book your session with Lila, and it'll be time well spent. Our time has come to an end, and it has been awesome. First of all, thank you to our expert panelists, Catherine Mele and Angela Parisi. You both were amazing. So much insight. You share amazing best practices, wonderful and actionable content. If I were to sum it up, I'd say collectively, you made the complex simple, the hidden visible, and the difficult easy. Secondly, thank you to all our attendees for the privilege of your time and participation. Without you, we don't grow together. Without you, we don't set each other up for success. A reminder to like, share, and review us on your favorite social media and stay connected with our panelists if you like deeper conversations like this. Until next time, on behalf of our panelists, keep striving for excellence and exceptional patient care. Thank you again for being with us tonight. We'll see you at the next expert panel webinar series. Until then, take care and good night.